So once again, thank you so much for joining us at this Airtame product recap webinar. It's the first one we've had in quite a while, and we're really excited to just talk to everyone who wants to listen. This is meant for people who might be customers already or might be checking out Airtame to figure out what we do and especially what's new in the world of Airtame. So don't worry, we'll hold your hand through this and make sure, even if you don't have a lot of knowledge of Airtame, you'll be guided through this entire webinar. Today, we are joined by, next slide, by me. I am Benjamin. I'm the product champion, who is also the head of product marketing here at Airtame. And by my side is?
My name is Arthur. I'm product manager at Airtame. I joined the Airtame product team 1.5 years ago. I'm focusing pretty much on the administrator experience at Airtame. So how you onboard with Airtame, how you configure the solution and make it available to end users. And I'm also in charge of our digital signage offering and some other exciting projects that we are going to share later in this presentation. Thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you will like this presentation.
Well said. And we're not alone. It's not just me and Arthur today. We, in fact, have both Brian and Philip joining as moderators. This means that you guys watching live at any point can go into our Q&A session and just type questions away. And Brian and Drake will be happy to have a look and write some good answers for you guys. We will also address the Q&A at the end of this session to recap some of the good questions you guys have. But let's have a look at the rest of the agenda for today. We're going to start with an introduction to Airtame, making sure we're all on the same page in terms of what we actually do, what our products can do, and where we fit and our strengths. Then we're going to go in deep to the big topic of this webinar, our brand new announcement of Virtual Airtame. We announced this last week, so I'm sure there's going to be quite a lot of you joining who are interested in hearing more about it, and you might have some questions. So again, keep that in, or make sure to let us know in the Q&A. And then we're going to look at some other features we also released this year, which are Airtame in your browser and Power BI. All three of these big things, so Virtual Airtame, Airtame in your browser, and Power BI will not only be presented, but in fact live demoed during this webinar. So stay tuned for that. And then at the end, Arthur will go through our roadmap and actually discuss what's up next and what you guys can be expecting from Airtame in the next coming months and quarters. And then, like I said, at the very end, we'll have a look at the Q&A and make sure to recap a bit of the questions you guys have. So let's get into it with the introductions and what Airtame actually is. So for those of you who have very little knowledge of Airtame, we are an all-in-one platform for shared screens. And when we say shared screens, we are referring to screens not only in a meeting room or a classroom, but also screens you might find in more common areas like a hallway, a lounge, a dining area, where you have a TV or projector where you actually want to apply some useful content. And the way we apply this is by offering both wireless screen sharing, video conferencing, and digital signage in one package. So wireless screen sharing makes sense. Most of people are pretty familiar with this concept by now. Video conferencing means you can run your very own conferencing call on the Airtame hardware, so you're not draining your laptop battery and generally stressing the laptop out. And digital signage allows you to show the content that are relevant when it's relevant on the different screens around your organization. So in total, no wires, no dongles, and no mess. We want to make it a clean and pretty installation, but also user-friendly, which is why you can control all of your Airtame screens remotely using our remote management system called Airtame Cloud. Here you can set up scheduled signage, so you can show signage content at specific times. You can apply firmware updates when it's relevant and the screens are not in use. And you can also change the appearance settings to make sure that the screens look good no matter what the use case are. So why choose Airtame? Well, we focus a lot on being very user-friendly, and part of that is having a unified experience, but also making sure it's easy to set up. In fact, setting up a new Airtame device or screen takes minutes, and actually using an Airtame only takes seconds. And in fact, you're going to see that later today during our demos. So in total, we want to make a unified experience. We have different products, we have different licenses, but at the end of the day, it's the same experience, it's the same design you're going to see when you walk into a room or when you see a screen. So any end user can trust that this system is going to work the same no matter what screen they're looking at. We're also fully agnostic, which means that we are extremely flexible when it comes to how your end users want to screen share and run a call. So in other words, it doesn't matter if you're using a phone, a tablet, or a laptop, we can screen share content from these devices. It also doesn't matter what operating system you're running. If you want to use the Airtame app on your laptop, you could be using Windows, Mac OS, Chrome OS, or Linux, and everything's going to work and be the same experience. It doesn't matter what kind of video conferencing service you prefer to use. You could use Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Google Meet, and WebEx, and everything, again, is going to be the exact same experience. And finally, if you do want to share something from your browser and not even use an app, it doesn't matter what browser. You could be using Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Opera, Safari, and Firefox. And again, it's going to work no matter what. This flexibility makes it very transparent for us to explain what we do, but it also makes it flexible for end users. So IT admins do not have to make strict rules about what the end users are using. You can simply allow them to use Airtame and let them use whatever they want to screen share and join a video conferencing call. We also pride ourselves on being cost effective, and we have a straightforward and transparent pricing setup. You pay per screen, you pay per Airtame screen you have in your organization. And once you've paid, there is unlimited use and there's unlimited users. You can have as many screen sharing sessions, as many calls, and as many pieces of signage content as you want on that screen. We also are scalable and versatile. I'll get back to this at the end, but we offer a set of different hardware and licenses you can use. So again, going back to the unified experience, we want to make sure you have a unified experience at the end. But when it comes down to actually figuring out what to set up, you can buy a combination of different licenses and hardware for your screens. Not every screen is identical, even though there might be they might all be in your organization. It makes sense to buy different products for different screens and then enjoy the same experience at the end. And like I hinted at before, we have an option where you do not need an app. So that means no dongles, no drivers, no apps to install. And this is, of course, really useful for guests and visitors coming in who might only have to interact with the Airtame screen for one day and then leave. They don't want to spend a lot of time doing initial setup, but they will have to use or they will enjoy the same easy experience as an end user, which is go to a website, type in a code, and share your screen. And once again, we will be demoing this in a moment. So with that in mind, that was the introduction of what Airtame actually is and what we do. Let's move on to the big topic of today, and that is Virtual Airtame. So we're going to start with the basics. It was released last week. We're really excited about showing this to you and letting you know how it works and how it fits in with our existing portfolio of products. It's important to say that when we talk about Virtual Airtame and this idea of running Airtame on third-party hardware, we're not going to stop producing our own hardware. So if you are looking at buying an Airtame 2 and Airtame Hub, this is not necessarily an announcement that means that you should be nervous about these products going end of life or anything. This is an extra option on the side to be looked at together with our Airtame hardware. So what is it? Well, Virtual Airtame is basically an Airtame platform. And you can use this on any Windows or Android powered screen to power this Airtame experience. It works, as you can see in the illustration on the right, on either displays that have built-in operating systems like IFPs with often Android installed, or basically a screen that is hooked up to some kind of room computer. in theory, this could be run on a big screen connected to even a laptop or desktop computer. So it's really, with Virtual Airtame, we want to make sure that you take advantage of the hardware that you have, but it's not necessarily something we recommend you go and buy new hardware for, because we still have our hardware offerings, and in fact, buying an Airtame 2 or an Airtame Hub is often a lot more price competitive than going out and buying a brand new room PC to then install Virtual Airtame on it. So do keep that in mind if you're looking into exactly what product to outfit for your screen. But if you already have hardware lying around, which works with Virtual Airtame, it is a very cost-effective way of applying Airtame to your organization. The way it works is you install the Virtual Airtame application on your shared screen. You then apply a license or start a trial. And then from there, you can enjoy unlimited screen sharing, video conferencing, and signage. So like I said, a transparent pricing scheme. You pay one license per screen, and then you can go nuts and do as much as you want in terms of interacting with the Airtame screen. On the note of technical requirements, we have our technical requirements for both Android and Windows listed on our website. So if you go to airtame.com/virtual, you'll see these requirements. But generally, the requirements are actually pretty low. The main things to keep in mind is that we recommend that your device is Windows 10 or Android 10 or newer. As long as it basically has a recent enough operating system, it should be able to run Virtual Airtame just fine. The application is not necessarily that demanding in terms of RAM and CPU power, so you don't need a high-end computer to run this. However, if you are uncertain about whether or not some of your devices would run Virtual Airtame smoothly, like I said, you can start a free trial and you can actually test it out on your own devices and verify that the experience is as smooth as you want it to be. And there are a few features that are not included in Virtual Airtame, but come with our dedicated Airtame hardware. And I just want to make sure that these are clear. They are also listed on our website. The first two are power and update schedules. The power schedule allows you to automatically set up a schedule to turn off the TV at the end of the day and turn it back on in the morning using CEC. So this is a great feature for saving power and also making sure your screen lasts longer. With Virtual Airtame, you will not be able to use this feature. It only works if you're using Airtame hardware. The same applies with the update schedules, where you can automatically install new firmware, usually at night when it's not bothering anyone. The updating the firmware or updating the application of Virtual Airtame is slightly different than updating the firmware of the hardware. And it cannot be scheduled, at least not using Airtame Cloud. We also have our native protocols, which are Google Cast, Miracast, and Apple AirPlay, all powered by AirServer. And these features are also exclusive to our Airtame hardware. So if it's important for your end users to be able to share content using Google Cast, AirPlay, and Miracast, Virtual Airtame will not support that. And then lastly, our Airtame hardware uses multicast for discovery. And for those of you who are already using Airtame products, you might recognize this. When you open the Airtame app, you will get a list of all of the devices on your network that you can connect to with the names of the individual Airtame screens. This is using the multicast discovery protocol, and it is not included in Virtual Airtame, which means Virtual Airtame screens would not appear on this list. Instead, what you would do is use the pairing code on the screen to enter either into your browser or your Airtame app to connect to it. Right? So with that disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about room systems. As I hinted at before, we offer hardware, including both hardware and license together as a combo. So in general, if you want to equip a new room system with Airtame, it makes sense to look at the Airtame Hub Plus Hybrid. However, you might have cases where you already have an existing room system and you're interested in seeing if Virtual Airtame will apply here. And unfortunately, the very detailed answer as it is with a lot of technical stuff, is it really depends. It depends on the use case. Today you can buy different room systems that are built into all-in-one bars, usually with Microsoft Teams rooms or Zoom rooms installed on them. And those are so integrated into the actual firmware of the video bar that it's not easy to remove that application and install Virtual Airtame instead. However, if you have a dedicated room PC and you know that you can access it as a Windows computer or an Android computer, and you know you have the rights to install an application on that device, Virtual Airtame should absolutely be able to run on your device. In fact, we have a few former competitors listed here, Intel Unite and Blue Jeans rooms, both softwares that are currently end of life, but we know people have been using them on their hardware, and we also know that we will absolutely be able to replace those systems. So if there are anyone of you out there using or who have used these systems, do get in touch, and we'll love to show how it works. I think that's it. Let's move on to another interesting aspect of Virtual Airtame, which is how you actually deploy it. So one of the powers of Virtual Airtame is that we work with UEMs like Microsoft Intune. This means that you, as an IT admin, would be able to take a single Airtame application and then mass deploy it to as many of your devices as you want to. Once you do that, of course, it installs the app and opens it up, and you would have to pair it to your Airtame Cloud account from here. But we do have taken it one step further, especially for our Windows setup, where we offer a so-called deployment key. So if you install Virtual Airtame on Windows machines, you are able to go into your Airtame Cloud account and then copy a deployment key from within your Airtame Cloud account and add it to your MSI file before deploying. When you do that, not only will this deployment install the app and open it up on all of these screens, it will automatically add all of the Virtual Airtame screens to your Airtame Cloud organization. It will use the name of the Windows device as the name of the Airtame screen inside of Airtame Cloud, so it should be very easy for you to manage which screen is belonging to which device. And from here, you can do all of your changes to your Airtame screens in bulk. That means once you've added, let's say, 50 different Virtual Airtame screens, you can easily select all 50 and apply a license to all 50 devices as a single action. You can then repeat the same thing, applying the same signage and appearance settings if you want, or do it in smaller subsets to customize what appears on the different Virtual Airtame screens. So we really want to make sure that Virtual Airtame is a great option for mass deployment and making it very easy to roll out across a lot of devices you have already set up in your organization. All right. So with that in mind, I'm sure a lot of you are out there thinking, sounds nice with mass deployment, but I'm not quite there yet. I just want to test it out. And for that, we want to direct your focus to the ability to actually try it right now. So you can go over to airtame.com/virtual, where you will be able to download Virtual Airtame for Windows and Android. Now, one important footnote on the Android setup is, as we speak, if you go to the site, you'll be asked to join a waiting list to get the Android application. We hope to have it out very soon, and you will be notified by email as soon as it's out. And once you have this installed application, you simply transfer and install it on the shared screen, on the room computer or IFP or whatever it might be. Once you've done that, if you're just testing it out, it makes sense to manually pair it to either a new or existing Airtame Cloud organization. So if you are not familiar with Airtame Cloud, it's completely free, and it takes about a minute to actually set up a new Airtame Cloud organization. Once you've done that, you will have to activate your Virtual Airtame screen. And you can do that in 3 different ways. You can either start our free 30-day trial, which is what I think most will be trying out, especially if you want to just test out the Airtame experience. So without paying anything, without putting any credit card down, and without having to wait for any hardware package to arrive, you are able to test out Airtame for free for 30 days on your own hardware and experience what Airtame is really like. If you already have an existing license that is active in your Airtame Cloud account, you can take that license and apply it to your Virtual Airtame. So if you're an existing customer, it does really make sense to go into your Airtame Cloud organization and check if for some reason you have a few extra licenses that are not currently applied to Airtame hardware, because for free, you could apply these licenses to Virtual Airtame. It's also important to note that any current customer can still start a trial. Even if you have done a trial a half a year ago or more, you can absolutely start a new trial now that we have released Virtual Airtame, because we really want you to try this out and experience how it is. The last option, if you already have used your trial or you want to get a new license and you don't have it already, is of course to buy a license. Now you can choose to buy a license from your preferred reseller, or you can buy it directly from Airtame. So with that in mind, I think it's time we see some stuff in action. That was all the technical details of Virtual Airtame. So I'm gonna stop my screen sharing, and then I will apply a different screen sharing. Here we are. So I know this looks a little bit artificial, and of course it is. It is a flat template. Our office is unfortunately not that clean and slick, maybe on some days. But what you're seeing in these two screens are actual live feeds from our or my laptop respectively. So let me just go in, and when I hover over, you will see this is a live feed from a laptop. And what you're seeing on the TV in the upper right is in fact the IFP I have standing right behind me. So let us show you how you actually set up Virtual Airtame on an Android IFP. So the only thing I've done to prepare for this is two things. I have gone into my laptop and I have created an Airtame Cloud account. Like I said, it took about a minute. All you have to fill out is a name for the account and a bit of information about your email and so on. Once it's set up, you will see what I'm seeing here on my laptop screen. On the IFP, I have downloaded the Virtual Airtame app for Android, which is an APK file, and I've put it on a USB stick and I've plugged it into this IFP. So on the IFP, I'm gonna go ahead and open the file app on the Android device, and then I'll make sure to select my Airtame USB drive. And here I have my APK file. Once I try to open it, it will ask me if I want to install Virtual Airtame. I'm going to tap on Install. And once it's done installing, I will simply tap Open to open this new application. Now, as you know, with Android devices, you have to give permission to use the video and microphone. So I'll just tap OK, or while using the app on both. This is, of course, for the video conferencing part of using Airtame. So once the app is up and running, as it is right now, I am prompted by the screen to go to airtame.com/add. So I'm going to go to airtame.com/add. And here I'm going to be prompted to put in the code on the screen. GJBRR, and continue. Then I'm going to be asked to name my screen. Let's call it Product Recap Demo. And obviously, I could add a password. I don't need to do that for now. I'm going to click on Continue. And now I have to select how I want to activate the screen. So like I said before, I could either apply an existing license, so either an Airtame Hybrid or an Airtame Core license. But in this case, I just want to try out the free 30-day trial. So I'm going to click on Start Trial and verify that my trial has indeed started. And just like that, I have a full up and running and connected Airtame screen that I can use. And in fact, if I go back into my Airtame Cloud, I can now see I have my product recap demo screen added, and it is in fact an Android device. And even if I go to the grid view, I will be able to, I will be able to see my entire device here from Airtame Cloud, and even change any settings I would need to change, like the appearance and the signage. But in fact, Arthur is gonna demo both the signage change and do a very short screen sharing session first. So I'll take a step back and let you share your screen from my laptop.
Thank you, Benjamin. So yeah, we are basically transitioning to the next thing that we wanted to showcase today. It's basically our browser application. So last year, basically, we have launched our browser application with the ambition to reduce the friction to access Airtame and interact with your screens. So that's why we deployed our browser application. We started by bringing screen sharing capabilities into our browser application, meaning that we want it without having to download any software on your laptop, which might be a little bit of an hassle for people who are basically passing by some locations. We wanted to be able to start a screen sharing session directly from a browser application. So what I'm showing here right now on the screen is basically this browser application. So we added last year the screen sharing capabilities, and this year our team have been focusing on making this browser application even more relevant. And what we deployed this summer is actually the ability to join calls also from our browser application. So better than words, what I'm going to show you is how it works in practice. So if you look at the laptop screen, you see that the browser application is asking me to input 5 characters pairing code, which is basically what is displayed on the screen. So I'm going to input this 5 character, these 5 characters pairing codes. And what you can see on my laptop now is that the browser application is offering me 2 options, because this device we have right here is able to run conferencing calls. So I have first an option to join a call, and I also have the option to share my screen. I just want to give you a little bit more information about how the join call flow works. So if I click on join call, it's going to basically start my screen and make it ready for joining a call. What you see on my laptop is basically the exact same experience that you already know from our desktop application, meaning that any end users can sync with their personal calendar, and they will see here all the meetings they have for the entire day. And just by clicking join call, they will be directly connected to the call through the Airtame screen. You also, for people who are new to Airtame, synchronizing with your personal calendar is an option, but you can also join a meeting by just copy pasting the direct link to the meeting. So it's also an option that you get from the browser application. So I'm not going to join a call right here, and I just want to show you also how simple it is to basically start sharing your screen. So I've been inputting again the 5 characters pairing codes, and here I'm going to choose the share screen option. Now the screen is going to ask me to select which screen I want to start sharing. I have the option to choose a window or a tab or my entire screen, and just with a few clicks, I can basically start screen sharing. So that's as easy as it is, and as easy as we want it to be. You just have to connect to our browser application, input a 5 characters pairing codes, select the screen or select the calls you want to join, and that's it. And that's how we want it to be easy. And that's why we have been focusing on this for the first quarter of this year. So that's what we could say about our browser application. The next topic I wanted to showcase today is basically on the digital signage area. So what we are going to discuss today is our brand new integration that is now part of our digital signage offering, which is our Power BI integration. So we heard quite well from our customers that in a data-driven world, they want to be able to see their data, to take the right business decisions and operational decisions based on metrics. And the main challenge that we have with metrics right now is that usually metrics are trapped into some softwares. They are into reports that are not accessible to everyone. Sometimes you need a license for every people who needs to access the information. So what we wanted to do with this integration is to make this data available to the teams that need it. So we wanted to make the data available from the screens in the shared space so people can see the data and can take action on the data. We also heard from our customers that they don't want just static reports. They don't want just static data. They want the data to be live. They want to be the data to be in real time so they can take action when something happens. So that's why we worked on this Power BI integration. So you now have the ability using Airtame to display Power BI dashboards on your screens within an authenticated, under an authenticated mechanism. So you don't have to publicly share your dashboard to be able to show them on your screen. It's all behind the Microsoft authentication. So it's secured, it's safe, and you can basically better leverage your data. So I'm just going to show you very quickly how it works. So if you look at my laptop screen right now, so all the digital signage configuration at Airtame is done through Airtame Cloud. So now that this screen is enrolled into Airtame Cloud, I can access the configuration of this screen. So what I'm going to do first is that I'm going to update the appearance just to make the instruction panel a little bit smaller so we can better see the dashboard that I'm going to display. So now I reopen the settings, and if I go into the signage section, you will be able to find the Power BI application in the list of integrations that we offer in Signage. So if I click on Power BI, I will be required to authenticate against my Microsoft accounts. Okay, now I'm signed in. I have here the list of all the workspaces, Power BI workspaces I have access to. So I have several here that I can select, and then comes the list of dashboards. So the list of dashboards that I can basically choose to present. You get inside the cloud a preview of what it's going to look like. And when you save, within a couple of seconds, it will be displayed on your screen. The data will be refreshed automatically according to the schedule settings that you've put in Power BI. So you get basically something that can be very up to date, because on the Power BI side, you can choose to be very granular about how many times per day your data and your dashboards are actually refreshed. Of course, along like any other signage apps, you can insert these apps into playlists. So it means that if you have different dashboards that you want to have on the same screen, and you want to loop among all these dashboards, you can just create a playlist with multiple apps. You can customize the duration for each app. So you can choose if you want this to be displayed for 2 hours, for 3 hours, or certain days of the week. That's all the options that you find in Airtame Cloud. So that was the spotlight that we wanted to make on the what's new on the digital signage side at Airtame. And that's the end for the demo part of this presentation.
Exactly. I'll just stop the sharing and then let's head back to the slide deck. Here we are. All right, and I'm gonna head to, here we are, the next slide. And in fact, I'm gonna allow you to go back to the laptop and control the slides so you can talk about what we have coming up next.
So yeah, we have been sharing some exciting work that we have deployed in the last few months, but we also wanted to give you a little bit of information about what we plan for the next month. So this is a sneak peek of our roadmap plans for the coming months. Very simply, very clearly, we want to keep working, deploying features, and keeping it simple, making sure that we keep empowering you and we allow you to better use your screens. And we wanted to focus on 4 areas within the coming months. First area is the mobile application for both iOS and Android. We heard it very clearly that we have more and more feedback from customers, for end users, asking for the ability to basically interact with the screens, not only with laptops, but also with mobile phones or tablets. So that's why our team is now focusing on getting a mobile application that will be out for the market, that will basically increase the number of devices that can interact with Airtame. We told in introduction that we want to be also device agnostic. So that's part of the mission. And that's part of the reason why we are planning to work and deploy a mobile application within the next few months. The next point is, of course, maturing our Virtual Airtame offering. So we are very excited that now we can say you can use Airtame and the power of Airtame on third-party hardwares. Benjamin mentioned some of the limitations that we have currently with this new product, with new platform, and we want to basically close the gap. So we will be working on making these Virtual Airtame products as good as the experience you have with Airtame 2 and Airtame Hub, because we want the experience to be consistent. So for example, we will be working on getting the share to call feature available for Virtual Airtame, and there will be also many other improvements to this product. The third topic that we are going to address is the ability for hosts who are running calls from Airtame to basically better control the calls. And this is what you have on the slide on the right side. It's basically a sneak peek of the work in progress design we have. So we want to give the ability to hosts to be able to control the calls. One very frequent request that we got from customers, one of the main feedback for managing calls is the ability to admit people that are waiting in the lobby when basically the host is in the Airtame room. So you have an example here where we will be basically listing the people in the meeting and also listing the people in the lobby with a magic blue button to admit them in the room and make sure that you have everyone on board within your meeting. And the last big topic that I briefly mentioned just before is our share to call feature that we want to bring once again into the browser application. So for people who are new to Airtame, share to call is a feature that basically allows people sitting in the room to share their screen into a call that is running, but without the need of actually connecting to the meeting and joining the meeting. So we want this to be possible also from the browser application, which is not possible right now. So our team are basically focusing right now on making it possible to do it from the browser application. So that's the main topics that we are planning to cover and I hope it's going to be exciting new features for you in the coming months. Last thing that I want to mention is that your feedback is really gold for us. The product cannot be better than when it's based on your feedback. So if you are interested in shaping the future of Airtame, I strongly encourage you to visit our roadmap page on our website and contribute, vote for the features that we advertise, or share your new ideas. I can tell you from the product team that we review your feedback every day on a daily basis, and it really helps the entire team to shape the best solutions that we can deploy later. So that will be my last word for today. And yeah, thank you very much for listening to us, and I can't wait to hear your questions later.
Exactly. I have one final slide before the questions, and it's basically just to wrap up this entire presentation. I wanted to introduce all of you to our current family of Airtame products. Again, some of you may have a lot of experience with the Airtame 2 and Airtame Hub, which we have out for a couple of years. I think the Hub is, what, a year and a half, almost 2 years old now. And the Airtame 2 is a few years more. But now with Virtual Airtame, we are announcing that you can get Virtual Airtame with either a core or hybrid license. And as you can see here, the only difference between core and hybrid is whether or not you have video conferencing included. So it's really transparent. You will always get unlimited screen sharing, unlimited signage, and all of the features from Airtame Cloud. So being able to remotely manage all of your Airtame screens. The only decision in terms of license you will have to consider is whether or not each of your Airtame screens will require video conferencing. But with these 5 different combinations of hardware, either Airtame hardware or your existing hardware, and our 2 different licenses, you can basically customize exactly what each of your screens will need in your organization, and be able to roll out a very custom plan for your organization. So again, you could have 100 screens and mix and match between these 5 different products. So that actually brings us to the end of the planned part of this webinar, and we actually move on to the Q&A session. So I don't know about you, Arthur, but I honestly haven't had the time to look at the Q&A before now. So let's dive in. I think I saw quite a few questions popping up. All right, let's see here. I don't know if you've had the time to check out some that we. So one question is what Airtame hardware is. So the idea is, when I have referenced Airtame hardware, it is buying a piece of hardware from us. So instead of running Airtame on third-party hardware on a Windows or Android machine, the traditional way of us selling Airtame up until this point has been selling a little piece of hardware. In fact, we have the 2 products right here, the Airtame 2 and the Airtame Hub. So these have been the way we have been shipping Airtame so far, and both will come with a 3 or 1 year license, 3 year for the products with a core license, and then 1 year for the products with a hybrid license where you also get video conferencing. Hopefully that answered the hardware question. Now I know Philip and Brian have been really good at answering a lot of these questions, so I just wanted to take a sneak peek.
The question about the license is interesting. You mentioned it, but I think it can be interesting for many other people. So, the question was that if you have already some Airtame hardware, like Airtame 2, with cloud licenses, and you want to use one of the licenses to test Virtual Airtame, you can definitely do it. So Virtual Airtame is both compatible with the core and hybrid licenses. And if you are already familiar with Airtame Cloud, in Airtame Cloud, you can remove the license of a device and put it onto another device, and it works exactly the same if you add a Virtual Airtame into your cloud account. So that's definitely a yes.
Exactly. And it's, again, that's where we want to have a really transparent setup in terms of the products we offer, but also the flexibility in 2 licenses, 2 hardware products, and then this new Virtual Airtame option where we don't sell you or ship you any hardware. You have the hardware on your own, but you apply the exact same license as you would the devices that you would buy. Let's see here. All right. Will Virtual Airtame work on a Raspberry Pi? Not yet. It is available for Windows and it is available for Android, but we currently do not have any version for Raspberry Pi OSs. I think the most common one is Raspbian. It's not a bad idea. It's something we could definitely add to the product backlog if there's a big use for it. I know Raspberry Pi have been releasing increasingly more powerful hardware. So the Raspberry Pi 5 should definitely have the at least the hardware to be able to run it. But of course, it would take some time to make a custom app for that operating system.
But that's exactly the kind of feedback that we love to hear about. So we know that we are launching a new piece of product here. We are also going more into the software world. So it's really helpful for us to know what kind of equipment you are actually using and what should be the right target for Virtual Airtame. So that's definitely something we would love to hear from you when testing Virtual Airtame.
I also see a question regarding iOS users, and you actually ended up touching on this. I think the question is before you got into the what's next part of the presentation. But yeah, as you actually pointed out, when I presented the limitations with Virtual Airtame, I mentioned that Virtual Airtame does not have native protocols, which includes, for example, AirPlay. And when you cannot share via AirPlay, all of a sudden you wouldn't be able to share from an iOS device. But that is exactly what we're then trying to solve by releasing an iOS application, which you can then install on your iPhone or iPad, and then use the application to share to both Airtame hardware and Virtual Airtames alike. I think most of the questions I'm seeing are actually just really amazing product feedback, which is great. We're getting feedback that people would love more reporting, which I know is also already listed in.
That's one of the topics that you can find on our product portal, the product roadmap portal. So
exactly. So
I see Brian is going to submit this feedback to me later. But you can also go on the product roadmap portal and just vote for this feature. That's what, as I mentioned, that's very important for us to feel what the market needs. And we also use this if you are okay with this, and if you leave some contact emails or something, it's also an opportunity for us to get in touch and deep dive a little bit on the needs that you have behind this. So we basically design and implement the right solutions for you. So that's a very helpful feedback again.
And again, just from this webinar, I think I see 3 different comments, maybe even more, all talking about being able to run Virtual Airtame on either Linux or Raspberry Pi, which, as far as I know, would be somewhat the same thing. Maybe I'm wrong there. But that's already amazing feedback that we are, it might be something to look into. Of course, we can't make any promises here. But thank you so much for all of these questions and comments and product feedback already. And yeah, to reiterate, definitely go to airtame.com/roadmap and give us some likes on the features you want to see that we have already listed. So we give it even more focus, and then of course just write us, let us know what new features you would love to see, even if it's not already listed on the planned roadmap. So I think this brings us to the end of the webinar. I would love to thank every one of you for joining. It's been really nice to go through the entire Airtame offering in a little bit less than an hour. Right on time, we have 7 minutes left. So I think I'll just give you those 7 minutes back and say thank you so much for tuning in, and especially an extra thank you to everyone who are watching this on YouTube, where we will be, we have uploaded this recording of the webinar. So thank you again for watching, and have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.